Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Erica. How are you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I can't complain. How about yourself?
I'm good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in this interview.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. Tell me about your most recent work.
Meat eaters. Well, that one is just about a bunch of lizards running across the valley, open country, and just eating people. It's
Yeah.
there's not much more to it than that.
What gave you the idea for it?
At this point, I'm just shopping for ideas. I had done a number of sea creature books, and I just figured I needed to get back on land. And I did a few books that took place in the woods, and I just thought, nah, I'd like to do something a little different than that. So I just thought something a little bit more Midwest, in the country valley type thing.
Yeah.
So more of a Western feel to it. So it kind of gave me a chance to revisit my childhood. I grew up with horses and stuff like that. So that's basically how that came about.
Nice. So talking about your childhood though, how did you get into writing as a whole, and what is your writing process like?
Oh gosh, the writing process part, I guess I'll take that one first. I mean, I usually do a rough outline at the very least. How detailed the outline be will depend on the project. Sometimes it's very vague, other times it's very detailed. But there's almost always some degree of an outline. And the thing about the outline is it's like the first draft of the story for me. The outline and the finished product are very different stories usually. The spine of it, the gist of it's usually the same, but the way things play out often change, or sometimes a character will die in the outline. But I'm like, I might have this guy live in the book. And but like I said, what I like about the outline process is that I make most of my mistakes in the outline, and then when I go to write the book, I can actually decide if something's better or not. I don't know if there was any one thing that made me want to write. Just I was always drawn to it, I guess. There was just I was always, when I was 6, 7 years old, I was always writing, picture stories with, a paper and pencil.
Yeah.
And I grew up with creature features, watching them with my dad, and just kind of, the teenage years came and went, different interests, and then somewhere in my 20s, I just kind of revisited it and just kept poking away at it, and I just kept doing it, and I'm still doing it. So
Yeah. Did you read a lot of like creature horror growing up too?
some, but not a lot. The thing is, had the internet been more what it is now back then, I probably
Right.
would have. The thing is, there's so many books I'm discovering now, just in the last couple of years, that I'm like, darn, I wish I knew about this back in my
Right.
teen, back in my, my childhood years, because, just it was actually after writing when I discovered so many of these other creature feature books from the 80s. And
Yeah, there's so
like I,
many. There's
yeah,
so many.
like Guy N. Smith and all that. I actually became more of a reader after I started writing. I had read before, just not nearly as frequently. So yeah, I read Peter Benchley, and I've read Steve Alton and one or two others, but not like
Love Steve Alton.
so. Yeah, I love his. The first Meg is one of my favorite
Me
books.
too.
So
That's really cool. So tell me about some of your upcoming projects that you have in the works.
well, there's a well. Let's see. There's one. I'll be going back to the sea. There's one that'll be
Oh,
about. I haven't started writing it yet, but I gotta go back to the outline. I gotta rewrite the outline and just plug in a few holes before I commit to the actual project. But there's one. I don't have a name for it either, but it's gonna be basically about a giant tiger shark that
oh,
is hopped up on cocaine.
oh my gosh.
So what it is, it's like
I love that.
the gist of it is it's gonna be kind of a mixed genre. It's gonna of course have that 80s, B movie
Mhm.
feel, and what I say 80s, not 50s, because it's gonna have more of the sleazy element to this that you
Okay.
see a little bit more in the 80s.
Yeah.
But it's gonna have that horror feel, but it's also gonna have a little bit of a Dirty Harry vibe to it too. It's gonna be a detective, doing the drug busts and all that. So what happens is, in a nutshell, there's going to be like this drug smuggling shipment that's coming in,
Okay.
and they have to dump their stuff because they get notified that they're going to get by an informant that they're going to get oh, hey,
Very
the
nice.
cops or the Coast Guard or somebody's
Right.
here. So they dump their stuff, and tiger sharks are like the garbage cans of the ocean. I mean, they'll eat anything, and that's where I'm like, what if
Oh, what happened?
like they ate a bunch of their
Oh,
cocaine and just and then has to go through withdrawal, so it's just
oh my
killing
gosh.
everyone it sees.
I
And
bet that'd be so entertaining.
yeah, So that's gonna be fun. Like I said, I just have to. I have written an outline in longhand, and I just need to type a more thorough one out, and then so that's gonna be an outline that's probably gonna be more detailed, just because it involves police and detectives and stuff like that. And usually, even if it's if it's very B movie-ish, I still want to have all the dots connected before I start writing it. So that's gonna be one. There's gonna be another one I might write for Raventail that it's going to be more basic. It's going to probably involve a giant shark and a giant crab, and just mutated from some growth hormone. And
Yeah,
they both pick at swimmers and boaters and stuff, and then
they face off.
glide it, and then they'll face off at the end. And
Amazing.
so that one will probably get done first, because that's a simpler book. See, I have two. I tend to have books that are larger and more complex in their plots, and then there's other ones where it's like, here's the monster, here's the town. It's not rocket science. There's not much to it. And
right. Well, you write, Ocean Horse. So I read Dreadnought. Dreadnought was so good. I couldn't stop reading. I was reading it one weekend while I was visiting family, and I just could not put it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I wrote that book with three kids pestering me nonstop. So I'm glad that didn't harm the final product too badly. So
yeah, no, I had so much fun. I was like, this could be a movie. This is so good. Okay, another question I have. What are some of your favorite like creatures in general? Could be anything. Land, sea, maybe like your top 5.
I guess I mean sharks in general, I suppose. I've written enough about them. I guess it's only appropriate that I say sharks are in the mix. I love crocodiles, although oddly enough, I have not written yet about a killer crocodile yet. Well, yes and no. I mean, I did start a project a couple years ago. I was on vacation, so it was kind of a spur of the moment, opening chapter thing, and I just never revisited it. So I mean, but maybe I'll revisit that one. So crocodiles. Trying to think. There's just so much out there. I like crustaceans, giant crabs. The thing about crabs is that they're just so hard to kill because they have that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Exoskeleton.
Yeah.
So and I guess I should say spiders. I mean, because especially if they're executed right. Because the thing about a giant spider is that you really, it's bad enough if you're caught by a shark or by a T-Rex or something. The thing is, they're gonna get you, and you're going to be dead in the next 5 seconds. So
no.
It's terrifying. It's all over. But if you get caught by a spider, it depends on the species. But let's just say the ones I tend to write, it bites you. You're paralyzed, but you're still alive. So it's
That's horrible.
So it's like there's a horror to that, to think like, oh man, you really don't want that thing to catch you, because it's not going to be over and done with like that. It's you have a lot more suffering to endure.
That's a great thing to write and build tension with.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine you're caught in its web and you're just hanging there and cocooned there and just waiting for the inevitable.
Yeah.
To have your innards sucked dry and all that stuff. So let's see, that was 4. Like I said crocodiles already. So it could be anything, but I'll go with snakes just because I like snakes. Yeah. You can't see it, but I actually have a corn snake to my right, and I call him my supervisor. He's always he's there to make sure the word count is met, and
that's funny.
So I like snakes, and there's so many other things, so I would say maybe those might be my favorite.
So talking about creatures, though, is there a creature that you would really love to write about down the line that you have not had any opportunity to get to yet, that you just...
I'm sure there are. I wouldn't mind coming up with maybe something more original. Probably in the future at some point, maybe do something with more of an alien species, something from outer space. That gives me a lot more flex. I've done that in the past, but it's been a little while. So that'll probably give me some leeway to come up with something a little more original, so to speak. I've wanted to do something more of, I haven't done any outlines for this yet, but basically a ripoff of Alien. There's something that I wanted to do, something that's like on an ice planet. So instead of being a derelict ship, it'll be on an ice planet. What that one would be this facility on this ice planet in some other solar system. And what they're doing is that they're carving out big chunks of ice to convert into water, and they supply that water to the other colonies, because that's like this ice planet is like the only source of water in this particular solar system.
Mhm.
And what they'll do is that they'll thaw some prehistoric alien thing. That's how it
Very
gets
cool.
inside that's how it gets inside the this outpost, and of course
I
it
would read
starts
that.
picking off the crew. Now that's definitely a book that would take more research to start writing, because I'm not good with engineering and that kind of stuff. So I'd have to like invent the entire facility before I even started writing this book.
Right, right. That sounds really cool though. Yeah. So I wanted to ask as well, do you see yourself writing more kind of like lizard novels, like meat eaters down the line?
Maybe. Like, are you talking like specifically sequels to the Meat Eaters book,
Maybe.
or just similar type of books?
Yeah.
Maybe. I did set the. I tend to. Here's the thing. I tend to do. I like to write kind of ambiguous endings sometimes.
Yeah, those are perfect because then they're kind of like they can lead on.
Yeah. So or an ominous ending where the problem with doing that, though, is a lot of people think I'm actually purposely setting up for a sequel, and it's like, oh crap.
Yeah, and then you have the pressure.
So it's like, oh shoot. And that's just kind of I grew up. That's the thing. A lot of those movies from the 50s I grew up with, you'd see you'd see an egg, or you'd see another creature hatch, even though they killed the killer monster. And it's always meant to be just this ominous closing. And so I tend to do that sometimes. But in today's generation, they'll see that and they'll be like, oh, it's setting up for a sequel. And
yeah, they're like, cool, when's the next one?
It's like, oh shoot, no, it was just a mood thing. But I will say, when I wrote that ending to Meat Eaters, I did, even though I meant it more as an ominous ending, I did write it at least consciously, like, this might set up a sequel. And actually I did kind of already have a few ideas come to mind as I was writing that, because it's like, okay, well, this one, what if the first book took place in the country? What if this one goes more into a city type?
Yeah, that would be so cool.
So it's like that's a thought right there. So in terms of more Meat Eater books, it's a possibility. And as far as killer reptilian books, oh yeah, I'm sure something eventually will come up.
Cool. Okay, so my last question for you today. For someone who is just getting into creature horror, what would you recommend for, say, a movie that they should get into, and also a book?
Movies. I mean, the thing about movies is it's all about personal taste. So that's interesting. So for movies, there's a bunch of creature features, but there's also different kinds of creature features. Like if you want something that takes place in the ocean, or if you want something that's outer space, like the Alien movies, or if you want something like Tremors. And that's another thing. Like, do you want something more serious, or do you want something somewhat more silly? Like, I wouldn't call Tremors a pure comedy, but it had a lot of comedy in it. And I would actually say Tremors. Maybe Tremors is a good one. I'm tempted to say Jaws. The only problem I have with recommending Jaws is that it's too good. It's like, and then you'll find out yourself comparing everything to Jaws, and it's like, I'm sorry, it's all downhill from there. It's like Jaws is just too good, and it's like I would say Tremors is a good one. Deep Blue Sea is a good one. Lake Placid is another good one. And it also depends on if you're interested in newer movies or older movies. Like if you want to go back to the 50s, Them is a good one. Or Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's one of my favorites. And I could go on. And if you wanted to go to the 80s, Alligator is a good one. That's when I grew up on, and that was early 80s. And so yeah, there's a bunch. I would say if I had to go by today's sensibilities, I would probably say the first Tremors for a movie. For a book, outside of my own, because that just does seem too.
You're like, all of mine.
Just look at my Amazon page.
Right.
Now for a book, oh gosh, Guy and Smith is a pretty good one. I would go with his first Night of the Crabs. That's a good one. Very 70s, very pulpy. And there's Steve Alton's Meg. That's a little bit more scientific and less campy, I guess you could say, than the other example. And then of course there's Peter Benchley's Jaws. I like that book, but some people might get put off by, there's a big subplot in the middle of the book about, the Ellen
Yeah,
Brody
I read it.
affair,
I know.
and
Yeah, yeah.
so I mean, it didn't bother me specifically, but I can see other people kind of being deterred by that. But I would say I really like his other two nautical thrillers. There was Beast about the giant squid, and then there was White Shark, also known as Creature. The book was there was a movie or a miniseries adaptation about a man shark. In the book, I think it was more of a Nazi experiment gone loose, but that was a good one too. So that's probably what I would go with on the book side.
Well, thank you so much for interviewing with me today. I'm very excited about all your new stuff. Can't wait. I love your book so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more coming. I have so much stuff in the works. It's crazy. So
yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'm going to be reading more of your books very soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank
All right.
you. You have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.